I'm Mark Ballard. Today I'm going to show you how to create a beautiful and unusual arrangement for your home. I'm going to show you how to incorporate some tropical components in with some of our southern traditional. You're going to love this. Today I'm going to show you about putting a floral arrangement together. I get comments about that all the time. People want to do their own. There's so much stuff out there available that you can create your own, but they don't know how. And I was going to kind of show you about combining elements that we normally do not think go together. Like, you know, on this side I have kind of tropical things, and over here I have, you know, really southern kind of hydrangeas and things like that, and fern. So I'm going to show you today how you can combine these and get sort of a touch of tropical without it being totally tropical, which is very in right now, actually. I decided on, since a lot of this is in the green family, you know, that's one of the questions I get asked most is how do you decide what colors you want to incorporate? So many people have tried to match their sofas and curtains and stuff like that, when really you should match the flowers should be in harmony, because after all, they're flowers. That's the color they're supposed to be. So I basically chose various shades of green until I got over here, and then I introduced, this is croton. Isn't that realistic? Look at how they've variegated those leaves. This is a tropical plant. You know, it has the green in it, but it introduces a touch of red and a touch of goldy yellow. Orchids. And then, of course, this is ginger. So that definitely is tropical. Very pretty. I love ginger. And we only got one of those that can give us a snap. And then I'm going to come in with some red Antheria. So basically we're working with reds and greens with a touch of yellow. Now this is sort of like a blooming, she told me what it was, I can't even remember. But I loved it because it has those spirals of limbs going out. It's not cherry blossoms, but although cherry blossom is on the horizon, as we know, Liz. This is kind of cool because it immediately gives us something to work off with and keeps it light and airy. So I'm going to put this pretty much down in the middle. I put styrofoam in my container and then put a little touch of sphagnum moss to sort of hide it. I don't want to do it thick. Those of y'all that have worked with it thick with sphagnum moss, it will not allow you then to pass it to get into the styrofoam. Then you have a problem. So if you need to put more later, you can do that, but right now we're just starting with that. So this is probably going to be the highest point of our arrangement. Apparently it's going to take over me and Liz during the process of labor. And right there it goes. Then, since this is going to be one of our focal points, the ginger, I'm going to come in next, and it's got a big old stem. I actually got muscles cutting this. You really do have to get some sharp clippers to cut through some of this stuff, because the more I have found, the more realistic it is, the more stem, the bigger the stem. And isn't that fascinating, Liz, if you zoom in on that, how they have like totally variegated down to even on the stem. You can tell when something's really nice because they've taken time to let it be correct all the way up. You don't have just a pretty bloom, you have everything working. So now that's, you know, I didn't want that directly dead on center, and you notice how I did the slight bend to that because I don't want it to look like it's so rigid that, you know, it wouldn't be natural. The same thing with this orchid. Move that aside. Orchids usually have a little twist in them. So basically, if you look at real plants, if you want your arrangement to look real, you need to look to nature, to real plants to see how they are. That's how you know, emulate it to be the same. So, you know, if you want to, you don't even have to buy orchids. You can study them. And, you know, so I was in the grocery store the other day, saw a beautiful orchid. And I just stood there a minute and kind of looked at it and thought, how's it growing? How does it look naturally? Because, you know, all that comes into play then when I do my arrangement. So I don't want this as tall as the ginger. So again, another stem that will get you some biceps and possibly carpal tunnel. And so I'm going to put it right here. Now I got that firm kind of styrofoam because you can get the kind that looks kind of like Oasis. A lot of people make that mistake. They will get Oasis thinking it's that other kind of, you know, styrofoam, you know, like the dry kind for these kind of things. But it's kind of flaky and like me. And hard to deal with. I mean, it doesn't hold. I mean, when you put this in there, it's in there. It kind of tears up. It's almost sandy in texture. So make sure that you get something that's going to hold these big stems. So automatically we've kind of got our things going. Now the next thing I'm going to do is put in our hydrangeas. And I'm going to basically, now we've got some height going and height established. Now we need to determine how round it's going to be and how wide. And we don't want it to be overpowering this way, but we do want it to reach outside the boundaries of just the container. And I'm going to keep these kind of a little touch low, not all of them, but some of them low so that we can, you see that was kind of in, you know, a little bit higher. We don't want anything, I like all my ranges to be sort of airy. We don't want anything to be so compact that you can't really enjoy all the different kinds of flowers and thus textures of flowers. So I'm going to put this one right here. You hear it crunching into that styrofoam. So automatically I've kind of established a circular pattern around where we started our height. And you know, the thing about this is if you get into your arrangement and, I'll go up here. If you get into your arrangement and you decide that, you know, I put this in the wrong place, it's not like you have made a mistake you cannot go back and change. You just take it out, move it over, wherever you want to be. These are just guidelines to help you get started, because that's the hardest part. Just put the first flower in, trying to decide, you know, where I'm going to do it. And, you know, don't let it bother you, because you can change it. Where you're talking about styrofoam, it's not like the end of the world. I get so undone with people that just go, I'm so terrified, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I'm like, just take your time with it and, you know, work on it. If it gets to a point where you have tried everything you can, then call me, right? I would help Mark to the rescue. I'll try to come. Now this is croton, as I told you earlier. That is definitely a tropical, sort of like shrub down in Florida and places like that it grows. And sometimes you'll see these in the house plant section locally. And I just love it being an artist because it's got almost, looks like a reptile or something the way the markings are. So it is immediately going to give us a splash. Liz saw that I had done one of these arrangements the other day and wrote me and said, that was so pretty, we should do that. Are you happy, Liz, that I found
Thrilled.
the same elements, because it already is looking pretty. So when this came, it was on a stem of all, just like one giant stem with all this going out, and I just simply cut it apart. That's another mistake that people make, is they'll get like 2 or 3 of these thinking, you know, it's all on one stem. When in fact, if you examine how it's put together, you will see that there are ways you can manipulate it to get more, you know, we're just using one of these, but we're getting it really spaced around in this arrangement. Try to keep that twisted and turned. So some of the smaller ones, you know, that I cut smaller, there were the tips of them. Look at that one. It's got a little, you know, they're always lighter at the end. That's how you know you're getting a good copy of a plant, is when the new growth is different than the, you know, other. That somebody has definitely taken some time. Plants have, you know, plants and silks and faux, it's different, likes me to say. Grandmother used to call them permanent flowers. Faux or fake, or whatever you want to say. They have come a long way, just in my generation, because Granny used to have those plastic ones. Y'all remember those? They could cut you if you got too close to that daffodil or whatever. So I'm just placing these around to get, and I love that little spark of yellow and red coming in, because it is going to come to play as we continue. And it's okay to let that come down. You know, we got this beautiful green ceramic container, but it's okay to allow things to kind of spill over. See, I told you already, this stuff is just so neat. Now, these are berries that are red and variegated from kind of a darker red to a lighter red, and they're going to help pop our red around just in a real quick hurry. Plus fill in some of our space because they've got beautiful green leaves. So, you know, it's neat, but sometimes with some of your fillers you use things that does have color, you know, leaves and color, so you're kind of killing 2 birds with one stone. Let me make texture, and I'm trying to space these around where you could kind of see all of that at some point or another from whatever side you were viewing it. Here we go. The little voice is telling me to put it in here. It does talk to me. See, that's what happens when you can't get your arrangement to come together. Your voice, your inner voice is not talking to you. That's when you need to sit down and have a little talk with it and say, look, I need some help. Okay. This is a beautiful little, just a real soft fern that I, again, came on one stem. I cut it apart because I knew it would be great to work in here. You know, just immediately get a little splash of texture of green. Fern is really pretty. Everything looks good against fern. That's why you see fern used so many times at weddings and in fresh arrangements, because it just is so natural looking and so southern, and it really, so pretty that it's kind of working in harmony with that tropical croton. And it just real, I mean, I love it to be different kinds of texture. Y'all know I'm all about different kinds of texture. So many people just get one thing, but you see what that's doing. It's making it look like a totally fresh arrangement, and all we're doing is just adding little touches of green, other things that are green, but even though they're green, they're different shades of green, and they're different textures. Texture is really important to an arrangement. Okay, let me get one more right there. So we're coming together, folks. Now, the next thing I want to do is add our anthurium, because again, I told you we're dealing with some little touches of tropics, and anthurium to me are really cool, which it takes a minute to get these. Anthurium always, anytime I've ever used them in fresh arrangement, they're always at some sort of curve, because the stem in the top part is a little bit heavier than the long, stem of its own. So take a minute to get them, versus that. That does not work. And you'd be surprised, y'all think I'm kidding, but I've seen arrangements where people do not take the time to manipulate the stem and all that to where it is natural. Again, I cannot stress to look at natural things. I think we'll cut a little bit more of this all. The best way to create something that looks real is to look at the real thing itself. I learned that in art school years ago. And see, we don't want that smashed in there because we want that to come out. And again, it's really getting the red popping. It's got some long stems. And these are very, very much like the real ones in shape and everything, the stem and everything. So if I were doing a real arrangement, I would be doing the same exact thing, but it would just be real. And it would be in a different kind of, oasis, something that would hold water. This is a little workout, Liz. And we want that to kind of bend ever so slightly. We don't want any kind of, isn't that a beautiful shape to that? I just love that. This one needs a little bit more help. It's been folded on the way from its journey wherever it was made. And it needs a little help, so I'm going to give it a little snip and a bend. Oh! I may not have to spin tomorrow, Liz. This is a pure out workout. One thing I do want to stress too, if you're going to do an arrangement, don't try to plan it on a day when you've got a busy day going, you've got something to prepare for supper, you've got somebody coming over later. You need to get by yourself so that you can have time to make those decisions, and if you need to change things, make changes. I think it's when we get when we're crowded with time and space and stuff like that, that's when we get frustrated and feel like we haven't done our best, because we're not having a chance to let the inner voice talk. Now this is neat. I liked it because it again had a kind of grassy texture and then just a green linear kind of vertical bloom. And this is the point where we will just go in every place we feel like we have not incorporated a flower. This will be where we do it. And again, you can let these, some of these are bending even naturally, but you can take a second and let it bend so that when you put it in there, it will come out of the arrangement in a graceful sort of way. And it's really putting the finishing touches on this arrangement. I'm really loving this arrangement, actually. This color combination would work with so many people's colors at home, because a lot of people are using reds and greens and stuff like that. It's really pretty in this kitchen, too, with the green wall, because it's such a natural kind of color. It's not, you know, we got a lot of green. And if you didn't like red, you could do the same kind of arrangement with just keeping the whole thing green. I think we need one of these directly into the center to soften that. And put this one here. Okay, so look at that. It didn't take long. Just a quick little survey of what's real, what's not. I mean, you really, and Liz is standing just a few feet away from me, would have to come over here, if this were in your home, to touch this to know that it was not real, because it's that real even looking at it. And that should be your guideline for creating your masterpieces. Because, you know, if they look fake and yuck here, they're going to look fake and yuck in your house, in your vase, anywhere. So choose accordingly and don't be so hard on yourself. You know, I want to show you some, let me just show you by showing you a couple of other examples to get you inspired. Okay, here's another arrangement I created using the same concept of putting in some tropical components as well as regular things like roses and stuff like that. I just wanted you to get the feel of how you can, and of course this is the one we just did, work colors together, work, you know, what we normally think of tropical, and then put them together in one arrangement. Look how pretty that is. And I think, I definitely want y'all to see that container, because it is such a pretty container with bronze and porcelain on that. So go find you a vase. This is your homework assignment. And go find you some flowers and just look at your dining room table or wherever you want to put it, whatever, you know, if you want to sit it on a table somewhere, and think of what you can do to make your room happy. Because every time I walk by any of these in my house, what do you are? We're happy because we're seeing beautiful things. Go out and create something beautiful. Don't be scared. You can do it, and I'll see you next time.